On March 13, 1964, Kitty Genovese was arriving home from work in the middle of the night when she was brutally stabbed to death by Winston Moseley. This horrific incident led to the coining of the term bystander effect, a phenomenon within social psychology that describes how people are less likely to offer help to a victim when other people are present. Although Genovese's case sparked a widespread public discourse about bystander intervention, it has since been revealed that the number of witnesses who actually heard or saw the events was largely overstated. The story of Genovese's death continues to be told in pop culture today, through movies, television shows, books, and music. If you've ever taken an introductory psychology course or scanned any psychology textbook, then it is likely that you have encountered the term bystander effect. This term was coined after the brutal murder of Kitty Genovese in 1964, where it was reported that 38 bystanders watched or heard the attack occur, but instead relied on others to intervene or call the police. Although it has since been revealed that the number of bystanders was likely to be much lower than the staggering number that was initially reported, Genovese's story still serves as an illustration for this phenomenon, and her legacy continues to live on in popular culture today. Who was Kitty Genovese? Catherine Susan Kitty Genovese was born in Brooklyn, New York, on July 7, 1935, to parents Vincent and Rachel Genovese. The oldest of 5 children, Genovese was a graduate of Prospect Heights High School and remembered as a very good student and voted class cut-up in her senior year. Following her graduation in 1953, Genovese's mother witnessed a murder on the streets, which motivated the family to move to New Canaan, Connecticut. Kitty Genovese, however, remained in New York City, working as a secretary at an insurance company and working nights at Evie's 11th Hour, a bar in the Hollis neighborhood of Queens, first as a bartender then as the manager, prompting her to move to Queens. A decade later, Genovese met her girlfriend, Mary Ann Zelonko, in a Greenwich Village nightclub. The two found a second-floor apartment together in Kew Gardens in Queens, considered a peaceful, safe area to live. This new apartment in Kew Gardens would be the last place Genovese ever lived. On March 13, 1964, exactly a year after she met Zelonko, Genovese was brutally stabbed to death as she was coming home from a late-night shift at the bar. Her brutal murder left the entire community devastated, and after startling reports came out that 38 witnesses saw or heard the attack and failed to act, Genovese's story gained widespread attention. Her legacy lives on in movies, books, music, and psychology textbooks, as scholars try to understand the later termed bystander effect and piece together the events that transpired on that awful March night. The investigation. It was 4 a.m. when police knocked on the apartment door and informed Zelonko about the stabbing and Genovese's death. It wasn't until around 7 a.m. that Detective Mitchell Sang arrived to question Zelonko, who was being consoled with liquor by neighbor Carl Ross. Sang found Ross intrusive to the questioning, and arrested him for disorderly conduct. Sang also knew that Genovese's body was discovered lying at the bottom of the stairs leading to Ross' apartment. Later, homicide detectives John Carroll and Jerry Burns arrived and grilled Zelonko on her relationship with Genovese. The questioning took an inappropriate turn, focusing on their sex life, and lasted for 6 hours. Much of the police questioning of neighbors revealed a preoccupation with the gay lifestyle. Zelonko was considered a suspect. Murder of Kitty Genovese solved. Later that week, police got a call about a suspected robbery. When police showed up, they found a television in the trunk of the suspect's car. The man, Winston Moseley, was arrested and taken to the station, where he confessed to stealing appliances dozens of times. Moseley drove a white Corvair, and this struck Detective John Tartaglia, who remembered that some witnesses to Genovese's murder had reported seeing a white car. This was mentioned to Moseley, who said nothing. Tartaglia called in detectives John Carroll and Mitchell Sang. They noticed scabs on Moseley's hands, and accused him of killing Genovese. Moseley replied that he hadn't confirmed information that only the murderer would know. Moseley's conviction. Following the incident, the coroner's report revealed that Genovese suffered from 13 stab wounds and several other defense wounds, indicating that she tried to fight back. During questioning, Mosley admitted to having murdered Genovese and two other women, Annie Mae Johnson and Barbara Krolick. He was found guilty of all three murders and sentenced to death on June 15, 1964. However, his sentence was later reduced to 20 years to life. After escaping from Attica prison in 1968, which added an additional 30 years onto his sentence, and being denied parole 18 times, he died in prison on March 28, 2016 at 81 years old. Public response. Other than a short blurb, titled "Queen's Woman, is stabbed to death in front of home" that appeared in the New York Times on March 14, Genovese's murder did not receive much media attention in the initial few days following the brutal incident. 2 weeks later, New York City Commissioner Michael J. Murphy told Times editor Abraham Rosenthal about the murder, which finally motivated the major news outlet to produce a story. The article, written by Martin Gansberg and titled 37 Who Saw Murder Didn't Call Police, was published 2 weeks later and discusses in detail how 38 people stood idle as Genovese was ruthlessly stabbed 13 times. The article made national headlines, and the presumed lack of public apathy sparked widespread discussion about bystander intervention. The bystander effect. Although 38 witnesses has since been determined to be an overestimate of the number of people who were actually aware that Mosley was attacking Genovese, this gruesome attack continues to represent a common psychological phenomenon, the bystander effect. This concept refers to the tendency to be less likely to assist a victim when other people are present. It can be difficult to know how to act in a high-pressure situation in which an individual appears to be in danger. To help guide the course of action, psychologists have devised multiple decision models of bystander intervention. According to social psychologists John Darley and Bibb Latané, 1968, who pioneered the empirical research on this effect, a bystander progresses through a 5-step decision-making process before intervening in any emergency situation. The 5 steps are: 1. Notice that something is wrong. 2. Define the situation as an emergency. 3. Decide whether they are personally responsible to act. 4. Choose how to help. 5. Implement the chosen helping behavior. Another decision model is the common cost-benefit analysis. Here, bystanders weigh the costs and benefits of helping the victim, justifying their decision based on which course of action will provide the best outcome for themselves. There are also several factors that affect the magnitude of the bystander effect. The extent to which the situation is labeled as an emergency will affect how likely an individual is to act. In a study done by Latané, a student asked participants in one condition if they could spare a dime and participants in another condition if they could spare a dime because their wallet had been stolen. Only 34% of people who were simply asked to give a dime did so, but 72% of people did when an explanation was given. Another study that collected data from EMS officials revealed that the response of bystanders was directly correlated to the health severity of the situation. Together, these studies demonstrate that when a situation is perceived to be particularly threatening or unusual, bystander intervention is more likely. Another factor that contributes to the severity of the bystander effect is group membership. In other words, although when the number of bystanders increases, the effect increases, when the victim is of an individual's same group, they are more likely to act. These are just 2 of many different factors that can impact the extent to which the bystander effect occurs. Ultimately, it is important to try to prevent factors that hinder an individual's likelihood of intervening in a dangerous situation. Inaccuracies uncovered. Despite initial reports claiming that 38 witnesses were there on the night Genovese was stabbed to death, articles and documentaries have since been made to show another side of the story. Specifically, a 2004 article in the New York Times questioned several claims about the initial report made just 2 weeks after the incident. And a 2007 study also demonstrated that there was no actual evidence that 38 witnesses observed the murder and remained inactive. In reality, because of the layout of the apartment complex and because there were 2 separate attacks on Genovese, nobody saw the entire sequence of events. And although approximately a dozen individuals, not 38, heard or saw parts of the attack, many of these individuals assumed it to be a domestic quarrel or a drunken brawl. Additionally, because the initial attack punctured Genovese's lungs, it is unlikely she was able to scream at any volume. A 2015 documentary called The Witness, directed by James Solomon, also revealed that investigators were aware of the errors in the initials New York Times article back in 1964, but the author did not want to state that witnesses did not think a murder was happening so as to not ruin the story. It is clear that some individuals were more concerned with constructing a certain narrative that would optimize the story's attention rather than report on what actually happened. In pop culture. In addition to the documentary, Genovese's story has been the subject of many television episodes, books, and songs. Both the Law and Order episode Remand and the Law and Order SVU episode 41 Witnesses were based on the cases is Season 2, Episode 1 of the Investigation Discovery Channel's A Crime to Remember series. Harlan Ellison's short Study the Whimper of Whipped Dogs, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, and Ryan David Yarn's novel Good Neighbors are based on the story. It also inspired folk singer Phil Oakes to write the song Outside of a Small Circle of Friends, and singer Ruby Lynn Rayner to write the song called Kitty. Although there are many controversies surrounding this brutal murder, Genovese continues to live on through many avenues of society today. Thank you for watching the video. See you in the next science video. Don't forget to like the video and write your thoughts in the comments section. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.